Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Bully face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy. Love sincerity, so I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically. Through hallways and alleys, dark days.
Hello. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Next Chapter. I am one of your hosts, Minister Cat, a.k.a. Kitty Rose, and I'm joined by...
Melissa D.
Hey.
Miss Kitty, you look like you're wearing a cute little lingerie. How sexy are you today?
And I had to lift up because I was showing some titties, so I had to lift up a little bit. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray, everyone. And this is not any different from any other week you have joined us so far. We got a hot topic of the week for you guys. This topic of the week is what everybody is talking about right now, especially if you are a woman. This week's topic is what, Melissa D?
Roe v. Wade 2022, a very important topic for all of us to discuss, whether you have children, don't have children, if you are in a hetero relationship, cis relationship, cis individual. This is a topic that covers everybody. It doesn't matter if you own a uterus or not. This is extremely important for all of us to discuss and discuss why it's such a huge issue.
So I know for me, this is a very interesting place to be as, I am not an involved or, what's the right word I'm looking for? I am not I'm stuck on stupid right now, but I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And right now, I am not an active member of the organization, but the faith is still very close to my heart. And one of the principles that we were taught in this faith or in this religion was that because we are no part of the world, the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one, how we kind of abstain from political matters and we don't get involved when it comes to legislation, bills, policies, things, even voting, things of that nature. But here we are, coming on a topic as a person who is not necessarily political, but that a topic that affects me as a woman, where we have Roe versus Wade or Roe v. Wade. And that's why I did the topic with the question mark, because, this law or this bill was passed X amount of years ago, but now it's actually getting ready or possibly getting ready to be overturned. So I think the question mark came into, is Roe v. Wade the beginning of rights being taken away? We want to just think about the current state of affairs in regards to what Roe v. Wade means today. Mm-hmm. But what does it mean on the global scale when it comes to our liberties?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like it's a continuation of taking our liberties away, which a lot of people have been feeling since 2020 pandemic, right? That we've been, stripped of so many things and told to do so many things, and people were feeling offended that we were being told to wear masks and we had to get these shots. And yet people are now saying, well, now it's okay that we tell women that they cannot do what they want with their body, and everybody should be okay with that, despite, all the things that this opens it up for. The thing is, abortion is not going to end. It's just going to limit the access to the people that need it. And so, again, we're going to have, populations being oppressed in this, and it's not going to be right. I'm seeing different things online, like people are okay with having children, let's protect the fetus or whatever, until it is born transgender, Black, poor, that point. Then, we don't care at that point, but, this is what's important. So it gets me so fired up because, I don't like to think that somebody, mostly white men, are choosing to take that away from me. My choice. And I've had this happen before. When I was in my 20s, I said, I do not want to have children, make it so I don't have children. And I was told, you're too young to decide whether or not you want children and if you want to, tie your tubes or get an IUD. We can't take away your fertility yet because you don't know yet. So this is a thing that continues to go on, that people don't think women can make proper decisions for their body and their life. So this topic gets me so heated. I mean, I think this is the most heated I've been on our episodes.
And it's crazy because, we're actually the calmest we've been, but that's almost the dangerous part. Like, when you are that calm is actually when you have that much anger, because it's almost like, how dare you? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. How dare you decide, or how dare you think that you can tell me? So again, going back to how I was raised and how I was taught to, kind of be, abstain from the world's politics. How can I abstain from something that ultimately can not only affect me, but then affect the choice of my daughter or affect the choices of my sons? Like, we always think about this affecting the women, but what about men who also get in situations where they are also the ones who deciding with the woman that they don't want to have children? Why are we keeping them out of the equation, of the decision making? And then we always want to kind of think about severe situations, molestation, incest, rape. But what about ultimately, like you just mentioned, you being a 20-something woman who doesn't want to have kids? And how dare someone tell me, well, I don't want to take that away from you because you might change your mind. Okay, granted, you're right. I might change my mind. But again, isn't that my choice?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about even serving Jehovah, like, we've had this conversation a million times before, but new to our new audience here on television, serving God, one of the beautiful things about serving God is that it's a choice. So if the creator of the universe, of the Most High, of everything, gives me a choice as an imperfect human to decide what I want to do with my body, then how dare legislator decides what I do? You know what I'm saying? But then how dare legislator decides what I do if I don't have a voice? If I don't, get involved in my politics on the ground level where I can actually make a difference in the decisions that are being made. Because these decisions that are being made aren't happening every 4 years. This is not an election year, my people. You know what I'm saying? And yet the Supreme Court now is deciding a decision that affects an entire nation, an entire culture. And don't get the shit twisted. What happens here is also the blueprint, or could be the blueprint for the rest of the world. I got a video for us. I got a video from us, and we're going to see what some other people think about what we're talking about.
I'm so angry because I feel that it's a control issue. They're trying to control me. I hate that with the Supreme Court and the abortion laws.
It's interesting. The same type of people that support this, should it have this ending of Roe v. Wade, ending the idea that a woman has the right to control her own body, are the same people that don't want to be vaccinated.
Yes.
Don't tell me what to do. The government can't be involved in what I shoot into my body, and yet they're willing to support the right of taking away from a woman her constitutional right, her human right to determine what happens to her.
And
yes, that's what I'm saying.
And I feel, Joy, because that's what it comes down to, control. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting how, like you said, it's always men, and particularly white men. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that white men can't make a decision that's better than fucking black men. You know what I'm saying? It's the idea that men are making the decision, or it's the idea that someone is making the decision other than yourself. You know what I'm saying? And again, like I said, what scares me about this decision being overturned is that this is just the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If this gets overturned, then what's next? Marriages, you know what I'm saying? The right to marry, the right to have children, the right to bear arms, like all of these, our constitutional rights are all now being challenged with this one bill that's being challenged of being changed. So the thing is, like, we have to really be careful and mindful of, again, living in a society that tells us that we're in a democracy, but feels more like a dictatorship.
Yeah, and it's showing that a majority of people are against turning this over, yet it's the powers that be, these small group of people who have been elected are saying this is the decision. Does not care what most of the people think in our country, but this small group of people, the people who have the money, who have the power, are the ones that are going to decide what happens. Yet this is a theory or a thing that we keep seeing over and over and over again, is like, who has the money, who has the power, who has the connection. And most times it's white men.
And that's what I was thinking about too. Like, okay, it depends on who has the connection, who has the opportunity, who has the, you know, the ability. So let's say if I live in a state that doesn't allow me to have an abortion, if something detrimental happened to me and I didn't want to carry a baby to full term, and then if I had the means, or I believe in creating the means to then go to a different state that gives me those liberties. But yes, what happens to those women and those men that are not in financial positions, that ends up now going back and doing back alley situations, back alley procedures, where now the death rate is higher than the actual fucking abortion rate, because women are dying on the table trying to do self-mutilation, doing self-abortions. So do we now go back? You know, are we saying that we're going to go backwards in even the way that we thought about things and the way that we handle things? I thought we were progressive. I thought we were progressive people. I thought we were always looking to aspire to be better. So how is aspiring to be better taking us back to the caveman days, where now we have to hide what it is that we want to do simply because it's our choice? Like, at the end of the day, if I don't want to have kids, I don't have to be a victim of rape or molestation to decide that I didn't want to have kids. What about if I'm an outright fucking whore and like fucking and just don't want to have kids, but want to enjoy having sex with multiple people? Now, I'm not suggesting that that's the life we lead.
Yes.
But
again, it's a choice, you
there
know?
You go.
It's a decision, you know, and it's one time, one mistake, you know, like, oh, you know, something happens, we didn't pull out, whatever it is. But we should not have to have these other rights taken away from us. And, you know, I know several people close to me who were like, you know what, a child is not the right choice right now because financially I cannot afford it, you know, and, you know, they made that decision and that changed their whole life, because if they were to follow through with that pregnancy, things would have gone really difficult for that family, you know, like in poverty, even more than they already are. Like, and why would we want to bring a child up in that if we can avoid that?
Right. Because we're adding to the problem, because now it's more people that can't get fed, because now you have children in a household that can't get fed, or children in a household that don't have education, or children in a household that are being abused by parents that don't want them. There's a whole list of now things that can happen that goes against all the things that you're supposedly trying to protect us from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just not like this one thing, like a yes or no, you can get, it is a whole ball of stuff that's going to just snowball. And then, you know, who's going to get blamed? Women. It's going to be our fault. Like, oh, you decided to have children and you can't afford them. You know, you need to work 2 jobs. Now your kid doesn't have daycare. Like, it's just this whole, like, it continues on. And, you know, and I think people of color get that even more, right? There's this like stereotype. And this is just going to continue to perpetuate that.
And I love the fact that as my white component, you always mention the disparity of black and white issues. But let's not also forget that not only does it affect people of color, but it also affects poor white folks. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's what people tend to also forget. Poor white folks or privileged white folks. Here's an example of what I mean.
Of the last 40 plus years. But you've said you were a late bloomer when it came to joining the movement. Why was that? And what's your message to women now, particularly younger women who've never known a world without Roe?
Well, those are two big questions. The first one, why was I've always been a late bloomer, but you know, as long as you make the flower show, in the end, it doesn't really matter if you're late. I don't know, I guess because I was always married and the marriages weren't totally authentic, and it's hard to be a full feminist and understand the women's movement if you're involved in a relationship that's not entirely authentic, where you can't entirely be yourself. It wasn't until I mean, intellectually, I was supporting the women's movement. I knew, you know, all the leading feminists. I made women-centric movies. I wrote books about women's empowerment, but it wasn't until I was a single woman again at the age of 62 that my feminism dropped from my head into my body.
Girl.
Wow. Wow.
I chose that part of the show or that segment because I thought it definitely hit both of us. You know, like we talked about feminists, the feminist movement, and how this decision can impact the feminist movement by taking our decision making off the table. But how does, when you have the ability to have the decision making tool, but you don't utilize it because you're in a marriage that doesn't really give you full liberties to do that? I thought it was interesting when she said that she couldn't be a feminist as a married woman, and that didn't allow her to entirely be herself. And I felt like both of us being divorced women, you know, did you feel like a level of freedom happened after you left your husband?
You know, now that I think of it, I remember when the Me Too movement came out, and it was, you know, just kind of pooed around the household of like, oh, you know, Me Too, everybody's got a Me Too, da 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 da. But so I can see where Jane would feel that way of like, I can't be a true feminist because, you know, it might not be completely supported, or you kind of constantly have to, you know, reinforce your stance when maybe at home you should feel that you can be your own person, but constantly having to support that or constantly having to try to educate, you know, somebody about that stuff, you know, it can be really difficult.
So on top of having government decide what you do, now we're going back in the boondock age, and that's not the word I want to use, where the women were seen but not heard. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we can go into where, you know, Jane Fonda is a privileged white woman, but didn't feel like she could come into her full completeness until she was 62 years old, where in her professional career, like she said, she made feminist projects. She marched the march. She wrote books, you know what I'm saying, but still felt a level of restraint. So if we feel a level of restraint within our homes, what the hell does that look like when the government now has feel like they have the authority to tell you what to do? And I think that that's what people are not really understanding. You know what I'm saying? We're not understanding that this one decision opens a door for all of our decisions to now be overturned, to where we now live in a like I mentioned earlier, a dictatorship, or better yet, a police state. And I think that that's happening. You know what I'm saying? I think that, you know, we watch all of these movies that they make, and there's some truth in these movies. Everything that's in the movies, I feel like eventually always happens. So now as we're waiting or going towards the end of the world, you know what I'm saying? Are we going to where it's not like almost like what they call like the purge, where everybody fucking attacks the government or is allowed to do crime? I don't mean the purge in a crime sense, but are we going to get to the point where man now fights government? Like we are literally like the way that the crazy people storm the Capitol building. Is it are we getting ready to be in a situation where if they do decide to start taking away our civil liberties, where now we are going to be in this rebellion? Like what's getting ready to happen on a global sense?
You piss off a global number of women, and boy, is there going to be hell to pay, I tell you. I mean, even like the Women's March, I mean, all the women that showed up for that, you know, it's like, they always say, like, behind a strong man, there's a strong woman. Let me tell you something. We don't need to be behind a man. We can do our own goddamn shit if we want to. And I think that's what it's going to come down to, is that we're all going to come together and say, like, this is not okay. And we're going to make your life fucking miserable if you continue with this nonsense.
So then is that our wraparound? Is that our come to Jesus moment, that it always, again, comes down to the sisterhood of women? You know, to the sisterhood of women standing up for our own rights and making sure that we do not allow man-made decisions to take us back to the caveman, stone age of living. Why am I stuck on stupid when it comes to my words today? Why I can't get, that's how angry I am about this topic, that I can't even get my words out correctly, because I'm so enraged, but at the same time I don't want to be diplomatic, but I want to be clear so that it's understood how angry I am, and not dismissive that, oh, we're on our period. We're just emotional. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? We're just emotional. Yeah. You know, when our points are valid, because this one point does not take us just for this particular point. This one point opens the door for so many other things. So the wraparound for me, as someone who's not politically involved, what do I do? How do I now stand on the shoulders of my sisters and congregating with them? How do I actually stand and make a difference if I don't vote? If I'm not involved in the decision makings up in Albany and in Capitol Hill? So the Spirit is coming to me now, telling me that I have to continue to use platforms like this, where you and I bring up the topic so that the discussion can be had, and in the discussion being had, those that are involved can make more of a stance to gathering other like-minded individuals, because we make a difference in numbers. You know what I'm saying? We make a difference. We can't make a difference if one or two of us is yelling. You're not going to hear us. But if you have 10 of us yelling, you know what I'm saying? And then not only yelling in a sense of when it comes to the decision makings in government, but again, it's about teaching our children at home. It's about teaching our young girls at home, because we could talk about the different levels of the abortion rights, but we also have to talk about prevention. You know, like, yes, there's certain things that, you know, there's certain things we can't fight. Rape, we can't fight. Incest, we can't fight. But we can make better decisions when it comes to, you know, using protection. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's another conversation that I want to have. We have to come back and have that kind of show. It's kind of sad to me how many people are sexually active who are not using condoms. So I think that that's the other component to abortions. Are people using abortions almost the way that they use the Plan B? Well, I can go have sex because I could just go have an abortion if I get pregnant. Does it become that easy? And then that, man, I'm so mad we at the end of the show, because that's the other part. Like, thinking abortion is easy, thinking that that's an easy decision. Like, can you imagine a woman and a man who sits and make a decision to kill a life, no matter where it's at in development? Do you actually think that first, whatever happened to them happened, but then on top of what happened, the decision to go lay up on a table, have somebody come in between your legs, go inside your body, and kill a life form? And then you have to deal with that afterwards. Do you think that feeling goes away?
With the protesters at the front door, too, of them screaming at you, yelling at you, as if they know that this choice was something that was easy, or it was just something that was just kind of like, oh, I just did this so I can get rid of it. Like, there is so much, and especially if you're a young person having to deal with all that, especially by yourself, it's terrifying. And it's something that, you know, can really stay with somebody for the rest of their life. It's not an easy decision.
So it's almost the gall of you. How dare you even think that the decision just stopped there?
Yeah. It is something that continues on, no matter who you are, like where in your lifespan you're in. it's still something that continues on. And so it's not an easy decision. I don't think people are thinking of it as plan B. It's just like, you know, it's just misconception of like, oh, you floozy, you made a mistake, you got pregnant, but what about that other person in that relationship too? Where does that person get to walk into that building with the protesters, with their legs spread on the table, with the machine stuck in it? Like, you know, there's so much that is involved in this. It's just not just like a,
Bam,
no,
bam.
you can't do it. Yes, you can if you have money type of thing. There's so much involved in it.
Girl. Well, we are at our favorite and worst part of the show, because this is where we got to do our song and dance and ask all of you beautiful people out there in TV land to like, share, and follow. Like, share, and follow. Go to our YouTube channels and subscribe to those channels and follow us and like us. And then don't forget to share your thoughts with us, because Melissa and I are going through the next chapter of our lives, and we are going through what we're feeling and what we're understanding, but we also want to bring you guys into the conversation. We also want you guys to share your thoughts with us, because this is a collaborative effort. This is a community effort where not only do we get a chance to come to you on public access television, which is a community program, but we want to engage the community even in the thoughts, the education of what we're learning, so that we can continue to build up each other and encourage each other, because in these next chapters of our lives, we're all going through these shades of gray, and we need each other to support each other, to understand each other, to love each other. So, you know, this abortion thing, we could talk about it to the cows come home. But ultimately, these are conversations that you need to be having in your home, with your peer group, with your friends, with your children, with your co-workers, because this affects not only you, but it affects all of us. So once again, I am one of your co-hosts, Minister Kat, aka Kitty Rose, and I am joined by the beautiful
Melissa D.
from Puerto Rico. And we are your hosts, and we are the next chapter, where, again, don't forget, we come to you discussing conversations where they're like the shades of gray. That went weird. I'm sorry. All right. All right, guys. This has been another episode of The Next Chapter. Mwah. We love you.
Legendary ciphers get the MCs in the jobs. The city never sleeps. Slept from 1 to 5 when COVID hit the block and we had to stay inside. Tough love is all I know, so be gentle with my soul. Learn to navigate winters with no coat. If you never been cold, you never been broke. Hustle 24/7 just to stay afloat. So New York, like dollar pizza in that cold shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. It's that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. It's that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard